Hi, everybody. My name is Emily DeSimone. I'm with the Garden State Film Festival, and here with me is John Gray, the director and writer of the short film, The Third Defector. John, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Emily. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on. Congratulations on this short that was accepted into the Garden State Festival, and thank you so much for taking this time to talk to me.
Of
I
course.
did watch the short, and I'm really so excited to ask you about everything that went on behind the scenes. But before I do, is there anything you'd like to tell our live viewers?
No, just that we set out to try to make a fun spy thriller in the streets of Paris. Very challenging on a very tiny budget to pull this off. But the audience will tell us if we did or not. But we had just a great fun doing it. And my wife, Melissa Peltier, my producing partner, we both love Paris, and we have a lot of friends there in the business. So we just, how can we work together with these folks we love? So we just sort of created this opportunity to make this fun, film that tried to show off Paris as well.
I watched it. I absolutely loved the storyline. What was your inspiration for this little writing?
I love spy movies. I love the Bourne Identity. Of course, Bond. Not that this comes anywhere near those in the scope of it, but I had made a short film in Paris in 2015 for Marriott. It was sort of a what they call a soft branded kind of commercial almost. It was a 22-minute piece that they hired me to write and direct. And I met these wonderful actors and this wonderful crew. And as years went by, I realized how bad I want to work with them again. And I realized, like, when's it ever going to happen? I got to make it happen. So I actually just figured out all the actors who I love. How can I make a movie that will feature them? What can they do for it? And so we just came up with this kind of spy thriller thing. And I love twists and turns. All my films are about twists and turns. So that genre lends itself to that perfectly. So off we went, and we did it.
So, what was this filming process like for you?
This short, I mean, all of we make a lot of short films. Again, Melissa and I, we try to do at least one a year or two if we can manage it. And they're all contained. They're usually in one or two rooms, in one location. We shoot them in 2 days. But this was kind of the opposite of that in a way, because we wanted to show off Paris.
Mhm.
So we wanted to have 3 days of shooting, and we wanted to just shoot completely exterior. The entire show never went inside at all. And so to do that, we shot probably as close to a student film as I've ever made, because to get the permits we needed to shoot in Paris, we couldn't have more than 7 people on the street at one time, including cast. You couldn't have a tripod. You couldn't have any equipment that went on the ground. So and it lent itself perfectly to the style of the movie, because we wanted to do it handheld and just very, very guerrilla kind of run and gun, sort of style. And so that's what we did. We piled into vans, and we just drove all over Paris, and we shot this thing. We had a couple of scenes where all 4 or 5 of the cast members had to be in the scene. And so we had to get some of the crew people, just go away, go have a cup of coffee, just leave us alone now, because we have to keep it to 7. So it was just great fun. And we had one nighttime scene, and um, the actors are just wonderful. As I said, they're friends, and it was just, the whole thing was like a love fest. It was just great.
So, where did you and how did you find your cast and crew?
Well, again, I was lucky enough to have made this short film back in 2015 called French Kiss, which is on YouTube. And I'll brag a little bit that it's has 6.3 million views on YouTube.
Oh, I'll have to watch
French Kiss, and that's where I met this cast, and we had a fantastic DP, Joël Labat, and just a wonderful, wonderful crew. And I've stayed friends with them all. Xavier Roy was our line producer, and so I contacted Xavier because he has his own company called Froggy Productions, and I said, "Look, I've got X amount of money. Here's the script. It's 3 days of all exterior. Can we do it for this amount of money?" And they were just coming out of the pandemic, so they had been a little bit slow. and Xavier was just wonderful. They just, they had equipment of their own that they just let us use, and Joel was happy to, shoot it. And our first AD Pascal was wonderful. He says everybody from French Kiss came back. We got the band back together to do this little movie for very little money.
Oh, I mean, like, and when I watched it, it does show absolutely stunning shots all over Paris. So watching it, I almost felt like I was there.
Well,
Um,
that's great. And what we did was there were certain locations in Paris that I knew I must have. The Paris Opera, the Eiffel Tower, of course. And so we picked the bridge. We picked those locations, and then for each day there would be our anchor location, and then we had to find the rest of the locations for that day's shooting within a push of that location. No driving. Just can we push all the equipment over to that next? And that's really how we pulled it off in 3 days.
wow. So when is it exactly that you ended up filming? Did you film this during the pandemic or after?
Well, we did this in the summer of 21.
Okay. So would you say, I know you said that you couldn't have more than 7 people on at one time. Was that a COVID restriction?
No, that was just in order to get the kind of permit that we needed in Paris, that you could get very quickly.
Okay.
They only give these permits out really fast to um, people who are going to be doing short films, student films. If you're doing a big feature, then it's a whole other process and it takes months. And but we had such a tiny footprint, we were able to just get this. I forgot what they call it. They have a certain name for this kind of permit, but it lent itself perfectly to what we were trying to do.
Okay. So what is it exactly you are hoping your audience will get from this?
Fun for the most part. I hope there'll be some thrills and some twists and turns, and I hope they get caught up in the characters, and we tried to add a certain amount of emotion and even a little bit of romance to it. I think that certainly people who love Paris will like watching it.
Um, do you have any advice for other filmmakers?
About Paris or just short film in general, or
Sure, both.
well, I would say in terms of doing short films, the advice I give any short filmmaker is probably something they know well already, which is that the key to making a short film successfully is prep. That is the one thing that I think costs you the least amount of money and pays off, the most. And for instance, in this case, Melissa and I went to Paris early. We found all the locations. Once we locked them in, then Joel and Pascal and Xavier and I walked those locations. I did a shot list for every single location. So there was never any guesswork, even though it felt very seat of the pants because we were just, running up in a van, jumping out. But in fact, we knew every single shot we were going to get every single day, and it was highly organized, even though on a very
Yes.
very small scale. And that's the thing I just tell everybody. The more prep you can do, prep is your friend, and it's a way to fend off fear. Fear of the unknown.
Mhm.
How am I going to get the scene in 3 hours? Do I have enough time? But once you know every single shot you need and how it's going to work, and you have those answers, and you can be a little calmer, I think.
Well, it sounds like you've been doing this for quite a while. How long have you been in
Well, I
filmmaking?
mean, I've been lucky enough to, have had a career for 35 plus years, and Melissa, the same thing. Melissa's is a brilliant documentarian, as well as a great writer and director in her own right. So between us, we've got like 70 years of experience, doing this stuff. And I worked extensively in film and television, and I had a show called The Ghost Whisperer on CBS that ran for 5 years. And so, all of us have kind of trained in that way of trying to find ways to economically make good films.
I mean, I loved this work, and I look forward to seeing your other works. How do you feel that you've been accepted to the Garden State Film Festival, and why did you submit?
Well, I love the Garden State Film Festival. This is our third or fourth year in a row that we've been lucky enough to have films there. And I haven't always been able to go, But the last 3 years, I was able to go. In 2020, was hard because people were afraid to go, and it was just a few of us there trying to keep the screenings together. And then the next year was phenomenal. It was a huge crowd. So great. And so I consider it a local festival, even though I live in New York, but I love the energy, and everyone who's put this festival together is so passionate about movies, and the film. The choices of films are always so great, and I love being in a block with other filmmakers and getting to see their films and meeting them and talking to them. It's just it just represents, I think, the best thing about festivals, and that it's filmmaker friendly, and you just go there and have a great time.
Well, thank you so much for the time that you've been putting in, and the fun that we've all been having with the festival.
Yeah.
You guys can check out the third Defector on Saturday, March 25th from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at Asbury Hall. Thank you so much, John, for joining us.
Thanks, Emily, very much.